The Zephyrian fleet burned in the darkness of space, dozens of ships drifting powerless, while others continued to fire on their own allies in mechanical confusion. Fleet Commander Vexthal stood on the bridge of his damaged flagship, watching. 2 centuries of military tradition crumble before his eyes. The virus had turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness, and the lone human vessel continued to strike at will from the shadows. Captain Morrison studied the tactical display from the Liberty's bridge, counting the disabled enemy vessels while searching for the next target. Nearly half the Zephyrian fleet was either destroyed or crippled, but the remaining ships were beginning to adapt to the virus, manually overriding their targeting systems and restoring some measure of coordination. "Captain," Amy Carter reported, "the enemy flagship is trying to broadcast new orders to their remaining ships. If they regain control of their formation, we could be in serious trouble." Morrison nodded grimly. The Liberty had inflicted incredible damage on the enemy fleet, but it was still outnumbered by functional warships that were rapidly learning to counter the virus. The time for hit-and-run attacks was ending. If they were going to finish this battle, they would need to take a terrible risk. "Target the flagship's main reactor," Morrison ordered. "We're going to end this once and for all." "Sir," Commander Hayes warned, "that will require dropping our shields and channeling all power to weapons. If they get a clean shot at us—" "They won't," Morrison replied with more confidence than he felt. "Chief Brooks, prepare to transfer all shield power to the main cannon array. Dr. Stone, can you give me one more surprise from that virus?" Stone looked up from his console, sweat beading on his forehead as he worked frantically on the computer code. "I can trigger a massive system overload in their remaining ships, but it will burn out the virus completely. After that, their computers will be clean." "Do it," Morrison commanded. "Hayes, take us in for a direct attack on the flagship. Maximum acceleration." The Liberty surged forward through the chaos of the burning fleet, its engines pushed to dangerous levels as it raced toward the massive Zephyrian command ship. Enemy vessels tried to intercept them, but Stone's final virus activation sent cascading failures through their systems, causing weapons to misfire and engines to stutter. On the bridge of the Dominion's Fist, Vexthal watched the human ship approaching at impossible speed. His tactical officers scrambled to target the vessel, but their weapon systems were failing one by one as the virus completed its destructive work. "Sir," Neltar called desperately, "all primary weapons are offline. The humans have destroyed our fire control network." Vexthal felt the weight of defeat settling on his shoulders like a physical burden. In less than 2 hours, a single human vessel had accomplished what an entire fleet of enemy ships could not have done. The ghost ship was real, and it was about to deliver the killing blow to his flagship. Morrison gripped his command chair as the Liberty closed to point-blank range with the Zephyrian flagship. The massive enemy vessel loomed before them like a metal mountain, its hull scarred by battle damage, but still bristling with weapons that could vaporize the Liberty in seconds if they came online. "Firing!" Carter announced as she triggered the main cannon array. A brilliant lance of coherent energy erupted from the Liberty's bow, striking the flagship's reactor section with devastating precision. The Zephyrian ship's shields flared and collapsed under the concentrated assault, and the energy beam carved deep into the vessel's armored hull. Secondary explosions began rippling through the ship's interior as critical systems overloaded. Vexthal was thrown to the deck as his ship shuddered around him. Emergency klaxons wailed throughout the vessel as damage reports flooded in from every section. The human attack had penetrated to the ship's core, and reactor containment was failing rapidly. "Abandon ship!" Vexthal ordered, his pride finally overcome by the reality of defeat. All hands to escape pods! Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, the remaining functional ships watched their flagship begin to break apart. The sight of their command vessel dying sent shockwaves through the alien crews, who had believed their technology was superior to anything humans could produce. Now they faced the undeniable proof that they had been wrong. Morrison watched the enemy flagship's death throes with grim satisfaction, but he knew the battle wasn't over yet. Nearly 80 Zephyrian warships remained operational, and while they were confused and demoralized, they still possessed enough firepower to overwhelm the Liberty if they coordinated their attacks. "Open a channel to all Zephyrian vessels," Morrison ordered. "Let's see if we can end this without destroying the rest of their fleet." Carter established the communication link, and Morrison's voice echoed across space to every surviving enemy ship. When he spoke, his words carried the quiet authority of a man who had just accomplished the impossible. "Zephyrian Fleet, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Liberty. Your flagship is destroyed, your fleet is crippled, and your attack on New Denver has failed. You have exactly one chance to survive this encounter. Power down your weapons, lower your shields, and prepare to be escorted out of human space. Any ship that refuses will be destroyed." The response was immediate and dramatic. One by one, the surviving Zephyrian ships began powering down their weapons and lowering their shields. The crews had seen what the Liberty could do to their most powerful vessels, and they had no desire to test their luck against the ghost ship that had become all too real. Vexthal, now aboard an escape pod fleeing his dying flagship, stared through the viewport at the human vessel that had defeated his entire armada. The Liberty hung in space like an avenging angel, its hull gleaming under the light of burning wreckage. He had learned a lesson that would stay with him for the rest of his life. Never underestimate humanity. The news of the battle spread through both human and alien space at the speed of light. Within days, every species in the galaxy had heard the story of the ghost ship that had single-handedly defeated a Zephyrian armada. The Liberty became legendary, and Captain Morrison found himself elevated to the status of hero throughout human space. More importantly, the victory sent a clear message to other alien civilizations that had been considering aggressive action against human colonies. Humanity might be young and relatively small in numbers, but they possessed technology and tactical abilities that made them extremely dangerous opponents. Several alien governments that had been planning attacks on human settlements quietly canceled their operations. Amy Carter was promoted to commander and given her own ship, becoming the youngest officer in Earth Fleet to receive such a command. Her tactical innovations during the battle became standard doctrine throughout the human Navy. Dr. Kevin Stone received the Scientific Achievement Medal for his virus program, which was studied and refined for future conflicts. Commander Hayes was promoted to captain and given command of the new stealth cruiser Phantom, the first of a new class of vessels based on the Liberty's design. Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks became the head of Advanced Propulsion Systems for Earth Fleet, leading the development of even more powerful stealth technology. The Zephyrian High Council, faced with the complete destruction of their most powerful fleet, was forced to acknowledge that their assessment of human capabilities had been catastrophically wrong. Admiral Kethvar, who had dismissed the ghost ship reports as fantasy, was stripped of his rank and exiled to a remote mining colony. Formal peace treaty was signed between Earth and the Zephyrian Empire 6 months after the battle. The alien government agreed to recognize human sovereignty over their colonies and established formal diplomatic relations with Earth. Vexthal, his military career ended by defeat, became an unlikely advocate for peaceful coexistence between the species. The Liberty returned to Earth to a hero's welcome, but Captain Morrison knew that their victory was just the beginning. Humanity had proven itself capable of defending its interests against overwhelmingly superior numbers, but there were other threats lurking in the vast darkness of space. The ghost ship had become real, and with it, humanity had announced its intention to claim its place among the stars. Standing on the observation deck of Earth Space Command, Morrison looked out at the ships of the growing human fleet. New vessels were being built incorporating lessons learned from the Liberty's impossible victory. Humanity was no longer the weak, primitive species that other civilizations had dismissed. They were a force to be reckoned with, and the galaxy was taking notice. The age of human expansion had truly begun, and it had been born in the fire and fury of a single ship's defiant stand against impossible odds. The Liberty had become more than just a vessel. It was a symbol of human determination, ingenuity, and the refusal to surrender in the face of overwhelming adversity. The stars themselves seemed to acknowledge that humanity had earned its place among them. The bridge of the Liberty hummed with deadly purpose as Captain Morrison gave the order that would change everything. "Dr. Stone, activate the virus. All stations prepare for combat operations. We're dropping stealth in 60 seconds. Stone's fingers flew across his console as he sent the activation signal through the Zephyrian computer network. Throughout the enemy fleet, corrupted data began flooding their targeting systems, turning friend or foe protocols into chaos algorithms that would soon have devastating consequences. "Virus is active and spreading," Stone reported. "Estimate, full network penetration in 3 minutes. Amy Carter checked her weapons one final time, ensuring that every torpedo was armed and every energy cannon was charged to maximum power. The Liberty carried enough firepower to level a small city, but against 200 enemy warships it would need to make every shot count. "Target acquired," Carter announced. "I have a firing solution on the Zephyrian flagship." Morrison took a deep breath, knowing that the next few minutes would determine the fate of New Denver and possibly the entire human expansion into this sector of space. "Chief Brooks, channel all available power to weapons and shields. Drop stealth field on my mark." In engineering, Lisa Brooks watched her displays as power flowed through the Liberty's systems like liquid lightning. The ship's fusion reactors were pushed beyond their normal limits, generating the enormous energy needed for the coming battle. Warning lights flashed throughout the engineering section, but Brooks ignored them. The ship would either survive the next few hours or it wouldn't, and holding back power wouldn't change that outcome. "All systems ready, Captain," Brooks reported. "We're running hot, but she'll hold together." Morrison gripped the arms of his command chair as he watched the countdown timer reach 0. "Drop stealth field now! Fire all weapons!" The Liberty materialized. In the heart of the Zephyrian formation, like an avenging angel, its hull gleaming under the light of nearby stars. Quantum torpedoes streaked across space in brilliant flashes of blue-white energy, followed by streams of coherent plasma from the ship's main cannon array. The massive Zephyrian flagship, caught completely by surprise, shuddered under the devastating impact. On the bridge of the flagship Dominion's Fist, Fleet Commander Vexthal was thrown from his command chair as the ship shook violently around him. Emergency lights bathed the bridge in red as damage reports flooded in from throughout the massive vessel. "Report!" Vexthal roared as he struggled to his feet, his purple scales darkened with rage and confusion. "Sir, we're under attack," his tactical officer stammered. "Multiple hits on the communication array and main engines. Shield strength down to 60%. By whom? Vexathal demanded. Where is the enemy? The tactical officer stared at his displays in disbelief. Sir, it's a single human vessel. It just appeared out of nowhere in the middle of our formation. Vexathal felt his blood run cold. He had heard the reports of a ghost ship, the wild stories told by damaged freighter crews, and frightened refugees. Like Admiral Kethvar, he had dismissed them as the fantasies of cowards and fools. Now, staring at the tactical display showing a lone human warship in the heart of his armada, he realized those stories had been true. The Liberty didn't stay in one place long enough for the Zephyrians to target it effectively. Captain Morrison had ordered evasive maneuvers the moment they dropped stealth, and the nimble human ship danced between the massive alien vessels like a fighter dodging the swings of giants. Plasma cannon fire lit up space around them, but the Liberty's superior speed and maneuverability kept it ahead of the incoming fire. Second target acquired, Carter reported as she locked onto a Zephyrian heavy cruiser. Firing! Another salvo of quantum torpedoes leaped across space, punching through the cruiser's shields and tearing deep gashes in its armored hull. The alien ship spun out of formation, its engines flickering and dying as secondary explosions rippled through its interior. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, Dr. Stone's virus was spreading like a plague through their computer systems. Ships began reporting false targets to each other, their corrupted sensors identifying friendly vessels as hostile enemies. The first friendly fire incident occurred when the cruiser Talon's Strike opened fire on its neighbor, convinced that the ship was actually a human destroyer. "Sir," Neltar called from his station aboard the Dominion's Fist, "ships throughout the fleet are reporting computer malfunctions. Multiple vessels are firing on friendly targets." Vexathal watched in horror as his perfectly organized formation dissolved into chaos. The virus had turned the fleet's own coordination systems against them, and ships were attacking each other with the same enthusiasm they should have been directing at the lone human vessel. Morrison saw the effect of the virus spreading through the enemy ranks and pressed his advantage. "Target their command ship's bridge," he ordered. "If we can take out their leadership, the rest of the fleet will fall apart." The Liberty wheeled around for another attack run, its weapons charging for what Morrison hoped would be a decisive strike. But as they closed on the flagship, the ship's sensors detected massive energy buildups throughout the Zephyrian formation. Despite the chaos caused by the virus, some enemy vessels were still capable of coordinated action. "Captain," Carter warned, "multiple ships are targeting us. I count at least 50 vessels with weapons lock." "Evasive maneuvers," Morrison commanded. "Brooks, I need everything you can give me." The Liberty twisted through space in a complex series of rolls and turns, its inertial dampeners working overtime to keep the crew from being crushed by the tremendous acceleration forces. Plasma bolts and particle beams filled the space around them, some coming so close that the ship's hull armor glowed from the near misses. One bolt found its target, striking the Liberty's port shield generator and sending shock waves through the ship. Lights flickered on the bridge as the impact overwhelmed the shield systems, but Chief Brooks quickly rerouted power and restored protection. "Shield Generator 2 is offline," Brooks reported over the comm. "We're down to 80% shield strength." Morrison knew they couldn't survive another hit like that. The Liberty was powerful for its size, but it wasn't designed to take concentrated fire from dozens of enemy warships. They needed to end this battle quickly, or they would be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. "Dr. Stone," Morrison called, "can you increase the virus effect? Make their ships turn on each other more aggressively?" Stone's hands flew over his console as he accessed the virus code remotely. I can amplify the targeting corruption, but it will make the program more obvious to their security systems. They'll eventually find and remove it. Do it, Morrison ordered. We need chaos, not subtlety. Stone uploaded the modified virus code, and the effect was immediate and dramatic. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, ships began attacking their neighbors with increasing ferocity. The cruiser Deep Current fired a full torpedo spread into the battleship Voidhammer, believing it was engaging the human vessel. In response, Voidhammer returned fire with its main plasma cannons, carving deep wounds in the cruiser's hull. Vexthal watched his fleet tear itself apart and realized he was facing an enemy unlike any he had encountered before. The humans had turned the Zephyrians' own strength against them, using superior technology and tactical cunning to defeat numerical superiority. For the first time in his military career, he felt the cold touch of defeat. All ships, he broadcasted, on the emergency channel. Cease fire! Disengage from combat! The human vessel has corrupted our targeting systems! But it was too late. The virus had spread too far and caused too much damage. Ships throughout the formation continued firing on each other, their crews unable to distinguish between friend and foe through their corrupted sensors. The perfect Zephyrian armada was consuming itself in an orgy of friendly fire, while the lone human ship continued its deadly dance through the chaos. Morrison watched the destruction spreading through the enemy ranks and felt a grim satisfaction. The impossible had become inevitable. A single human vessel was defeating an entire alien fleet through superior technology and tactical innovation. But the battle was far from over, and the Liberty still faced overwhelming odds if the Zephyrians could regain control of their formation. The boarding shuttle drifted silently toward the Zephyrian cruiser, its stealth systems masking it from the alien sensors. Commander Hayes watched through the shuttle's viewport as the massive enemy vessel grew larger, its purple hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. Behind him, 5 Marines checked their weapons and equipment one final time, their faces grim with determination. "Docking in 30 seconds," whispered the shuttle pilot, Lieutenant Danny Clark. "Their airlock sensors are showing normal readings. No sign they've detected us." Hayes activated his personal stealth field, watching as his reflection disappeared from the shuttle's windows. The other Marines did the same, becoming invisible shadows in the cramped passenger compartment. Dr. Stone's computer virus was stored in a small device on Hayes's belt, waiting to be uploaded into the Zephyrian command network. The shuttle touched the enemy hull with barely a whisper of contact. Hayes and his team moved quickly through the airlock, their magnetic boots keeping them attached to the ship's surface as they cut through the outer hull with plasma torches. Within minutes, they had created an opening large enough to slip inside the enemy vessel. The interior of the Zephyrian ship was unlike anything the humans had seen before. The corridors were wide and tall, designed for beings much larger than humans, and the walls pulsed with a soft bioluminescent glow. Strange symbols covered every surface, and the air carried an odd metallic smell that made the Marines wrinkle their noses. "Computer core should be 3 levels down," Hayes whispered into his comm unit. "Stone, you reading our position?" Back on the Liberty, Dr. Stone monitored the boarding party's progress through their helmet cameras. "Confirmed, Commander. Take the corridor to your left, then follow the main passage until you reach the vertical transport shaft." The Marines moved through the alien ship like ghosts, their stealth fields keeping them invisible to the few Zephyrian crew members they encountered. The aliens walked past them without any sign of awareness, going about their duties with no idea that human soldiers were moving through their ship. Hayes found the computer core exactly where Stone had predicted, a massive chamber filled with crystalline data storage devices and holographic displays. The technology was advanced, but not impossibly so, and Stone had prepared for this moment by studying captured Zephyrian computer systems from previous encounters. Accessing their network now, Hayes reported as he connected Stone's device to the alien computer core. The virus began uploading immediately, disguised as routine maintenance data to avoid detection by Zephyrian security programs. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison watched from the Liberty's bridge as his ship held position in the heart of the enemy formation. The Zephyrian fleet continued its steady advance toward New Denver, unaware that human infiltrators were planting the seeds of their own destruction. "Upload complete," Hayes reported 20 minutes later. "We're moving to secondary objectives, now." The boarding party spent another hour gathering intelligence from the Zephyrian ship's computer systems. They downloaded tactical data, fleet movements, and communication protocols that would prove invaluable in the coming battle. Most importantly, they confirmed that the enemy fleet planned to arrive at New Denver in exactly 43 hours and destroy the colony without warning. "Time to go," Hayes finally whispered to his team. "We've got what we came for." The Marines retraced their steps through the alien ship, moving carefully to avoid the increasing number of crew members they encountered. The Zephyrians still showed no sign of detecting the intruders, their sensors unable to penetrate the advanced human stealth technology. As the boarding party prepared to leave, Hayes made a decision that would change everything. Instead of simply escaping undetected, he ordered his team to plant explosive charges on key systems throughout the ship. The charges were small and wouldn't cause major damage, but they would create enough chaos to test the virus Stone had uploaded. "All teams, plant your charges and prepare for extraction," Hayes commanded. "We're going to announce our presence." The boarding shuttle was waiting exactly where they had left it, still invisible to Zephyrian sensors. Hayes and his team slipped aboard and prepared to return to the Liberty, their mission complete. But as the shuttle pulled away from the enemy cruiser, Hayes activated the explosive charges they had left behind. The Zephyrian ship shuddered as multiple small explosions tore through its internal systems. Emergency alarms began wailing throughout the vessel as the crew scrambled to understand what had happened. The ship's captain, a massive Zephyrian named Kolvex, rushed to his bridge demanding answers. "Report!" Kolvex roared, his forearms gesturing wildly at his crew. "What caused those explosions?" His tactical officer, a younger Zephyrian named Neltar, studied his instruments with growing confusion. "Sir, I'm reading multiple system failures throughout the ship, but sensors show no external attack. It's as if the damage came from inside our own hull." On the Liberty, Dr. Stone watched with satisfaction as his virus began spreading through the Zephyrian computer network. The program was subtle, designed to corrupt data slowly rather than cause immediate system failures. Within hours, it would reach every ship in the fleet, and when activated, it would turn their own weapons against them. Boarding party recovered safely, Amy Carter reported as the shuttle docked with the Liberty. All objectives completed successfully. Morrison nodded, but his expression remained serious. The easy part was over. Now came the real test, using the intelligence they had gathered to somehow defeat an entire enemy fleet with a single ship. The virus would help, but it alone wouldn't be enough to stop 200 warships. "Dr. Stone," Morrison called, "how long before your virus is fully distributed through their network?" 6 to 8 hours, Captain," Stone replied. "The program is designed to spread slowly to avoid detection. Once it reaches critical mass, I can activate it from here, and their entire fleet will lose fire control coordination. Morrison studied the tactical display, watching the steady progress of the Zephyrian formation. In 8 hours, they would be even closer to New Denver, making it even more critical that the Liberty's attack succeed. There would be no second chances and no backup plan. "Commander Hayes," Morrison said, as his executive officer returned to the bridge. "What did you learn about their ship design?" Hayes pulled up the intelligence data they had gathered, displaying holographic schematics of Zephyrian technology. "Their ships are powerful, but they have some critical weaknesses. The shield generators are centrally located and heavily armored, but they're vulnerable to harmonic resonance attacks. More importantly, their communication systems are completely centralized. If we can take out the flagship, the rest of the fleet will lose coordination." "And their weapons?" Morrison asked. "Impressive firepower, but slow targeting systems," Hayes replied. "They're designed for long-range bombardment of stationary targets, not close-quarters combat with fast-moving opponents. If we can get in close and stay mobile, we might be able to avoid the worst of their fire." Morrison absorbed this information, his mind already working on tactical possibilities. The Liberty was outnumbered 200 to 1, but it had advantages the Zephyrians didn't expect: stealth technology, advanced weaponry, and the element of surprise. Most importantly, the enemy still didn't believe the ship existed. "Captain," Carter interrupted, "I'm detecting increased activity in the Zephyrian formation. It looks like they're investigating the incidents on that cruiser." Morrison turned to the main screen, where he could see several Zephyrian ships moving to surround the damaged cruiser. Search parties were being launched, and sensor sweeps were intensifying throughout the formation. Soon, they would realize that they were dealing with more than simple equipment failures. "It's time," Morrison announced to his crew. "All hands, battle stations. We're going to show these aliens what happens when they threaten human civilians." The Liberty's crew moved with practiced efficiency, preparing their ship for combat against impossible odds. In the engineering section, Lisa Brooks pushed the ship's systems to maximum performance, while Dr. Stone made final preparations for activating his virus. On the bridge, Amy Carter armed the ship's weapons and raised the shields to full power. For the first time since entering the Zephyrian formation, the Liberty began to move with purpose rather than stealth. Morrison had made his decision. Rather than wait for the perfect moment that might never come, he would create his own opportunity. The ghost ship was about to become very real to the aliens who had dismissed its existence. The Liberty drifted through space like a shadow among shadows, its stealth systems rendering it completely invisible to the massive Zephyrian fleet that lay spread out before them. Captain Morrison watched the tactical display as his ship moved deeper into enemy territory, weaving between the alien warships with surgical precision. The bridge was quiet, except for the soft hum of electronics and the occasional whispered report from the crew. "Distance to the flagship is now 15 kilometers, Amy Carter reported from her station, her voice barely above a whisper, despite the fact that no external sensors could detect them. "Their formation is holding steady, no sign they've detected. Our approach." Morrison nodded, his eyes fixed on the screen showing the Zephyrian command ship. The vessel was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the Liberty, its hull bristling with weapon emplacements and sensor arrays. Yet, for all its impressive firepower, it remained blind to the human ship that had slipped into the heart of their formation. In the engineering section, Lisa Brooks monitored the stealth systems with intense focus. Sweat beaded on her forehead as she fine-tuned the power distribution, keeping the Liberty's energy signature below detectable levels while maintaining enough power for sensors and life support. The slightest fluctuation could reveal their position to 200 enemy warships, and she knew that discovery would mean instant death for everyone aboard. Stealth field is holding at 98% efficiency, she reported over the comm system. We're running a bit hot on the port generator, but it's within acceptable parameters. Dr. Kevin Stone hunched over his science station, analyzing the streams of data flowing in from the passive sensors. Each Zephyrian ship was being cataloged and studied, their weapon signatures recorded, their shield frequencies measured, their communication protocols intercepted and decoded. What he was discovering made him increasingly excited and nervous at the same time. "Captain," Stone called softly, "you need to see this. I found something interesting about their shield harmonics." Morrison moved to the science station where Stone had pulled up a detailed analysis of the Zephyrian energy shields. The display showed wave patterns and frequency readings that meant little to the captain, but Stone's expression told him it was important. "Their shields all operate on the same base frequency," Stone explained, pointing at the data. "It's incredibly efficient for protecting against conventional weapons, but it creates a vulnerability. If we could generate an inverse harmonic pulse at exactly the right moment, we could cause a cascade failure that would bring down multiple shield grids simultaneously." "How many ships are we talking about?" Morrison asked. Stone ran the calculations through his computer. "With our current position and the right timing, we could disable the shields on at least 30 vessels in the central formation. But, Captain, to generate that kind of pulse, we'd have to channel almost all our power through the main deflector. It would drop our stealth field for nearly 10 seconds. Morrison felt a chill run down his spine. 10 seconds might not sound like much, but to a fleet of enemy warships, it would be an eternity. Every weapon in the formation would lock onto the Liberty the moment it became visible, and even with their advanced armor and shields, the human ship couldn't survive that kind of concentrated firepower. Commander Hayes appeared at Morrison's shoulder, having overheard the conversation. "Captain, with respect, that's suicide. We should gather what intelligence we can and get back to Earth Command. Let them decide how to handle this threat." Morrison studied the tactical display, watching the slow, steady movement of the Zephyrian fleet toward New Denver. According to their current course and speed, the aliens would reach the colony in 68 hours. Earth's nearest battle group was at least 5 days away, even at maximum speed. The 50,000 civilians on New Denver would be completely defenseless when the attack came. "How long before they reach the colony?" Morrison asked, though he already knew the answer. 68 hours, 14 minutes, Carter replied promptly. "Sir, even if we transmitted a warning right now, there wouldn't be time to evacuate the civilian population." Morrison closed his eyes for a moment, weighing impossible odds against unacceptable losses. When he opened them again, his expression was grim but determined. "Dr. Stone, I want you to find every weakness in their formation you can. Communication networks, power distribution, anything we can exploit. Commander Hayes, work with Chief Brooks on a way to maximize our shield strength. If we're going to do this, we need every advantage we can get." "Sir," Hayes said quietly, "are you seriously considering taking on 200 enemy warships with a single ship?" "I'm considering saving 50,000 innocent people," Morrison replied. "The Liberty was built to be the most advanced warship in human space. It's time to find out what she can really do." As the crew began their preparations, the Liberty continued its silent journey through the enemy formation. The ship's sensors recorded everything: weapon signatures, crew rotations, fuel consumption patterns, communication frequencies. Dr. Stone discovered that the Zephyrian fleet used a centralized command network with orders flowing from the flagship to division commanders and then down to individual ships. If they could disrupt that network, the entire formation would lose coordination. Amy Carter found another vulnerability in their tactical systems. The Zephyrians relied heavily on automated targeting computers that shared data across the fleet. The system was designed to prevent ships from accidentally firing on each other, but Carter realized it could be turned against them. If they could plant a virus in the network, they might be able to cause the Zephyrian ships to target each other instead of human vessels. "Captain," Carter reported, "I've been studying their fire control systems. They use an identification friend or foe protocol that prevents friendly fire incidents. But if we could corrupt that database, make their ships think their allies are enemies, they'd start shooting each other." Morrison finished with the first smile he'd worn since receiving their orders. "Can you create such a virus?" "With Dr. Stone's help on the communication protocols, yes, sir. But we'd need direct access to their network to upload it. That means getting close enough to physically interface with one of their ships." Morrison looked at the display showing the nearest Zephyrian cruiser, a sleek vessel half the size of the flagship, but still larger than any human warship. "Commander Hayes, prepare a boarding party. We're going to pay our neighbors a visit." The next few hours were spent in careful preparation. The Liberty maneuvered to within a few hundred meters of a Zephyrian cruiser that had separated slightly from the main formation. Hayes selected a team of the ship's best Marines and technicians, while Dr. Stone prepared the computer virus that would hopefully turn the enemy fleet against itself. "Remember," Morrison told the boarding team as they gathered in the shuttle bay, "we're ghosts. Get in, plant the virus, gather whatever intelligence you can, and get out. The moment they detect our presence, this mission becomes a shooting war we can't win." Hayes nodded grimly as he checked his equipment one final time. The boarding party would use personal stealth generators and electromagnetic pulse devices to disable Zephyrian security systems. It was a dangerous mission, but it offered their only hope of evening the odds against the massive enemy fleet. As the boarding shuttle prepared to launch, Morrison returned to the bridge where the rest of his crew continued their silent vigil. The Liberty hung motionless in space, invisible to the enemy ships that surrounded them, while her crew prepared to attempt the impossible. In less than 3 days, 50,000 human civilians would face annihilation unless a single ship could find a way to defeat an entire armada. "Boarding party away," Carter reported as the shuttle disappeared into the darkness between ships. "They should reach the target in 12 minutes. Morrison settled into his command chair and waited, knowing that the next few hours would determine not just the fate of New Denver, but possibly the future of human expansion into the galaxy. The Zephyrians had dismissed reports of a ghost ship as impossible fantasies, but they were about to learn that sometimes the impossible was simply the improbable waiting for its moment to strike. The massive doors of the Zephyrian council chamber slid open with a heavy thud that echoed through the crystal halls of their home world. Admiral Kethvar walked into the room with his head held high and his purple scales gleaming under the bright lights. His 4 arms moved in perfect rhythm as he strode toward the central platform where the High Council waited for his report. The other council members sat in their floating chairs, their large black eyes fixed on him with keen interest. "Admiral," spoke Elder Zixtal, her voice carrying the weight of centuries, "we have received troubling reports from our outer territories. Ships claim to have encountered a human vessel that appears and vanishes like smoke. What do you make of these stories?" Kethavar let out a low rumble that passed for laughter among his people. His mandibles clicked together in amusement as he activated the holographic display in the center of the room. Images of damaged freighters and frightened refugee ships appeared in the air, their hulls scarred by weapon fire and their crews telling wild tales of ghost ships. "Honored elders," he began, his voice filled with confidence. "These are nothing more than the desperate lies of cowards and fools. Look at these vessels, old cargo haulers and civilian transports. When faced with our superior firepower, they create fantasies to explain their defeats. There is no ghost ship. There is no invisible human warship. Our sensors would detect any vessel within 1,000 kilometers. The hologram shifted to show sensor readings from various encounters. Each one showed the same thing: empty space where the frightened crews claimed to have seen a massive human battleship." Kethavar gestured at the data with two of his arms, while the other two remained clasped behind his back. "You see, my lords, our technology is far beyond anything the humans possess. They are a young race, barely capable of faster-than-light travel. Their weapons are primitive, their shields are weak, and their tactics are simple and predictable. These stories of vanishing ships are clearly the result of damaged sensors or the wild imagination of crews who have suffered too much stress in combat." Elder Molkar leaned forward in his chair, his ancient eyes narrowing. "But Admiral, 3 separate incidents have been reported in the past month. All describe the same phenomenon: a large human vessel that strikes without warning and disappears before our forces can respond. Surely this cannot all be coincidence." Kethavar waved one hand dismissively. "My lord, fear makes people see things that are not there. When our ships engage human forces, the humans fight desperately because they know they cannot match our strength. In their panic, damaged sensors and stressed minds create these ghost stories. I assure you, if such a vessel existed, our fleet would have destroyed it by now. Meanwhile, thousands of light years away in the cold depths of space, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, studying the star charts displayed on the main screen. The ship around him hummed with quiet efficiency, its advanced systems running so smoothly that the crew barely noticed the incredible technology that surrounded them. Unlike the massive dreadnoughts that formed the backbone of Earth's fleet, the Liberty was built for a different kind of warfare, one that relied on stealth, speed, and precision rather than brute force. "Captain," called Lieutenant Amy Carter from her position at the tactical station, "we're receiving new orders from Earth Command. Priority Alpha encryption." Morrison nodded and walked to his command chair, pressing his palm against the secure reader. The message appeared on his personal display, and his expression grew serious as he read the contents. Earth intelligence had detected massive Zephyrian fleet movements in the Helios sector, dangerously close to several human colonies. "Commander Hayes," Morrison called to his executive officer, who was reviewing engineering reports at a nearby console. "Set course for the Helios sector. Maximum stealth configuration." Rick Hayes looked up from his datapad, his weathered face showing concern. "Sir, that's deep in Zephyrian space. If they detect us, they won't," Morrison replied with quiet confidence. "The Liberty is designed for exactly this kind of mission. We need to find out what they're planning before it's too late." The bridge crew began their preparations with practiced efficiency. Chief Engineer Lisa Brooks initiated the stealth systems from her station in engineering, watching as the ship's energy signature dropped to almost nothing. The Liberty's revolutionary cloaking technology bent light and electromagnetic radiation around the hull, making it virtually invisible to conventional sensors. Dr. Kevin Stone, the ship's science officer, calibrated the passive sensor arrays to gather intelligence without revealing their position. "Captain," he reported, "stealth systems are fully operational. We're effectively invisible to long-range scans." As the Liberty entered hyperspace, Morrison thought about the reports Earth Command had shared with him. Refugee ships and damaged freighters had been arriving at human outposts with stories of encounters with an invisible human warship. The irony was not lost on him. The Zephyrians were dismissing these reports as fantasy, never suspecting that the ghost ship they refused to believe in was real and heading straight for their fleet. Back in the Zephyrian Council chamber, Admiral Kethvar continued his presentation with growing enthusiasm. "My lords, I propose we take advantage of human weakness and launch a decisive strike against their colonies. Our intelligence indicates that the settlement on New Denver has grown to over 50,000 inhabitants but remains lightly defended. A show of force there would demonstrate Zephyrian superiority and convince the humans to abandon their expansion into our rightful territories." The council members exchanged glances, their telepathic abilities allowing them to communicate without words. Elder Zixtal spoke for the group. "What forces do you recommend for this operation, Admiral?" "I have already assembled a fleet of 200 warships in the staging area near the Proxima Nebula," Kethvar replied, his confidence absolute. "This force is more than sufficient to overwhelm any human resistance. Our ships are faster, our weapons are more powerful, and our crews are experienced in combat. The humans will have no choice but to surrender or be destroyed." The holographic display changed to show the assembled Zephyrian armada, an impressive sight of sleek warships arranged in perfect formation. Each vessel was twice the size of the largest human battleship, armed with plasma cannons that could punch through any known armor and protected by energy shields that had never been penetrated by human weapons. "The fleet is under the command of Fleet Commander Vexthal, one of our most capable officers," Kethvar continued. "He has studied human tactics extensively and assures me that this campaign will be swift and decisive. Within 72 hours of our attack on New Denver, the humans will be forced to acknowledge Zephyrian dominance in this sector." Unknown to the confident Admiral, the Liberty had already dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Nebula. The ship's sensors were detecting the massive Zephyrian fleet, counting vessels and analyzing their formations. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, studying the tactical display with growing concern. 200 ships, Amy Carter reported quietly, all heavy cruisers or larger. "Captain, there's no way our forces can reach New Denver in time to help." Morrison clenched his jaw as he realized the magnitude of the threat. The nearest Earth fleet was weeks away, and the civilian population of New Denver had no idea what was coming for them. The Liberty was alone, outnumbered 200 to 1, facing an enemy that didn't even believe it existed. "Options, people," Morrison said, his voice calm despite the impossible odds they faced.